Marla, it is great to see you in our fireside chat here. I was thinking of our many years ago when we worked together to try and convince clients to invest a little bit in digital. We test and learn. And here we are all in on that and so much more. So
yeah,
this topic of addressable accountability, we've been living with it for some time.
Absolutely. So good to see you too.
Really fun. And 18 months ago, big role change. So I'm really curious. You moved from the agency to marketer side, which really allows you to get underneath from behind the curtain and understand how clients can really be using their data in more interesting and innovative ways. Love for you to share us a bit more about what that experience was like and what were some of the things that maybe surprised you as you have the marketer's lens now and what you can be doing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's been such a great transition. It really is interesting to see all the teams on the inside come together. I never really had that point of view. And it really hits home how important it is to have an agenda around this. I mean, I guess the one thing I would say that surprised me, it's not really a surprise, but when you see it happening, there's just so much there's a volume of data and it's coming from so many different sources. And the idea of being really deliberate about what you focus on, what you decide not to focus on, and how you harness that, it's just massively complicated with so many different teams, and especially in a company the size of Ford. So it's been a really interesting, eye-opening, just great to work with the teams. Because, as we both know, we really unleash a ton of insights when you get into how do we use this data with purpose and to reach out to the myriad of audiences that matter. And so many of them matter to the brand and will continue to matter as we go forward.
Exactly. It's that pivot, right? From the early days where it was all about more data, more data. Now that we have so much of it, what's the art of the edit to say what matters, what can we derive the insights from, and how can we use it powerfully across partners, kind of unlocking it from the silos. And I imagine the scale of Ford makes that a very big challenge to how to simplify and get into the right lane of the data that matters and can make a difference.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's really defining your agenda, because how we unleash the data and link it and have that agenda is based on where are we going as a company? What are our priorities? And then it goes from there. And we've got so much new product coming out. We've launched recently so many new vehicles, from the F-150 Lightning and most recently Maverick, but they're very different audiences, which then it's on us to say, hey, what insights can we find? And we know that always takes us back to data and the chain that it takes to link that data, to have those really good insights and then to have them into action.
Let's talk a little bit more about this. This has been an amazing launch year for Ford, which when you think about the environment that we're in right now, to have more launches than ever, clearly there was a role data played to understand how to get the perspective of what audience can actually drive the most sales, and how do you think about your current customers and more. Can you talk a bit more about data and addressability in a launch year like this last year?
Yeah, sure. So addressability has always been crucial. I mean, we both know the more precise that we can get, we can tell better stories, we can get better connections when we know who are we trying to reach, and getting the right signals to say, are we doing this right? Are we engaging? Are we getting the right feedback from who we're trying to talk to? So it's not just the pushing out of messages, but learning from, the data tells us we think we're trying to get to a certain audience. Is that the right audience? How are they engaging? And then what are we saying next? Is really what's so powerful. So we have more and more been we have a really strong, loyal base of customers for Ford. But as we look for where's the growth going to come from, that leads us to audiences that we may have been courting, but maybe we need to put some more effort there. And understanding that, and what that leads us to, okay, who's next? How are we most relevant for growth audiences, for diverse audiences, for women, audiences that we're saying we have some of, but these new products may help us engage in even better ways than we have already.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And what a year for that as well, right? How to really understand the opportunities across more diverse audiences and where to place your bets. I imagine a lot of testing and learning to get into that, forming hypotheses, and then test your way, start to scale, reapply to the next launch.
Absolutely, which I mean, we do on an ongoing basis. It's so important to be testing and learning and really getting behind the scenes with all of our partners, with your teams, with publishers, with technology partners. It's the entire chain all together, which we really need to unlock. That's where all the goodness comes from, where you have the right conversations and we're all talking together.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit more about that. I'm always curious, the experience in the room. How do you bring the partners to the table along with agency partners like ourselves to drive that collaborative conversation where we're all kind of unlocking our assets and showing what we can do when we're stronger together?
Yes. I think what that starts with is being really purposeful and deliberate about what are our expectations? What are we trying to get out of this? And I think, we weren't alone. Last year was really a pretty eye-opening year for many of us based on the environment, based on what went on, based on the conversations, that were created by what was happening politically, what was happening in so many aspects. And it was very eye-opening to think, how are we being deliberate enough in the criteria that we set such that we have expectations with each of our partners? So that starts with what's important to us. How do we want to show up? What are our criteria? Because if we're not defined in what our expectations are and we set what the accountability is, it's really hard to lead that conversation. So it was an assessment on our side, then working really closely with your teams on your side to say, okay, let's be really specific. This is what's important to us from a brand safety standpoint. This is what we have an expectation from a transparency standpoint. And then that set the stage to have the right conversations because we know what we're expecting, what are those criteria, and then it's setting the plan to help us get there.
That's great. So true transparency in the conversation, your criteria, performance standards, and then holding everyone accountable to that.
Yes,
so in
exactly.
That, did you start to see areas that came to the surface as far as where you felt there still needs to be more transparency, whether that's transparency in the media supply chain or transparency in certain conversations? What needs fixing still?
Yeah, I think it's on us to ask the right questions because for a long time, there's this perception that there is purposeful lack of transparency. And some of it is just, are we asking the right questions so that we're getting underneath the things that we need to know? And it could be, it's just the nature of how the system is set up. And then some of it is you just need to get underneath it and ask what you really want to understand. And some of it is building trust. Trust between anyone you're partnering with. We have strong trust with each other, but then each time we talk with a publisher or we talk on the supply or demand side, it's that the relationship you build so that they understand where you're coming from, you ask the right questions and they feel accountable because this is going to be measurable. We care about what that unlocks for us. And it's just a different conversation than we're just going to transact because we need the media and we're going to measure it, but we need to transact on other things that are valuable to us.
That's great. It's hard to hold people accountable if they don't have enough visibility into what those KPIs are and what the impact is, or feel the impact as well if we're not making that accountability very clear from the start as far as what then those next steps will be depending on the performance. So
right.
As much as we talk about transparency in the supply chain, I'm thinking about transparency in that conversation. And to your point, really asking the smart questions, and then the question that follows that up, and then the next one to get to the heart of the matter. That's working.
That's right. And until this came to light, I kind of feel like we didn't shine the light on ourselves to say, what are we trying to solve here? What really matters so that we could have an agenda, because sometimes you have the conversation, it could go in circles if you don't really start from what are our expectations, why is that important to us, and how does that tie back to our priorities as a brand?
That's great. I know we feel that you just bring us into your business and that makes all the difference in the partnership and the performance that comes out of it.
Yes. And we feel that for sure.
So let's pivot a bit to the world that we're all facing and reading more and more about, and the extensiveness of the topic of privacy compliant environments and what that means for addressability. And I'm curious if it's been a big pivot for Ford or just a part of your journey when you think of how you've approached first brand safety and then moving now towards perhaps a more restrictive environment, or maybe an environment that has more opportunity as a result of some of the guardrails that'll be in place.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And that part remains to be seen. But no, we've been on this journey for a while, because it's extremely important to us. I mean, our brand at the portfolio, or as we call it, at the Oval, is so important to us. And we've definitely had criteria. We've been working as combined teams on the accountability to the environments we show up in and what we expect in terms of the standards that we hold ourselves to and we expect our partners to meet. I think in this past year, we became even more laser focused and set very refined criteria where there can't be a question. And we broke it down and had just a very methodical framework, and we did it together. And then we went to our partners and we had purposeful conversation around, we want to make sure that this is a two-way dialogue, that we lay out what's really important to us and that we have a roadmap to get there, because there are challenges. It is not easy in every environment, and some environments are harder than others to track safety. And some places that we spend our dollars, they're controlled by consumer conversation. People are just, and that's not easy. It's not easy to monitor that, but we really wanted to set out a roadmap. No matter how challenging the environment is, let's have a roadmap of how we're going to get there. So that became really specific and very intentional this past year.
Excellent. So you're living the world of responsible media then.
We actually are, yes.
In roadmaps and more. I'm curious if there's other dimensions as you think about responsible media too, beyond the partner conversations that you're having, that yes, kind of puts it under that umbrella.
Yes, I mean, I think it's really expansive. So we're a part of PRAM, the Partnership for Responsible Addressable Media, which what that really gets to is no one marketer can define this just on their agenda. We really need the whole ecosystem to be working together. And as part of that group, which, that crosses every part of the industry, agency, marketer, publisher, technology, data. And it's, what are we seeing coming? And if we all put on our consumer hat, how are we being perceived? How are we showing up? And what do we need to do to be as clear and transparent to people when they come to us, no matter how they visit us? And that takes all of us working together, because it won't just fall into place if we don't connect those dots in the right ways. And that type of an industry-wide entity has been really instrumental, and it really takes all of us together.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Raising the bar for the industry and setting the right expectations too of our consumers in how we protect their privacy.
Yes, exactly.
So in that journey itself, have you found there are some things that maybe you measured in the past that really don't matter moving in the future? Does it reframe some of the status quo or expectations of here's how we might measure success and put a different lens on it?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think measures of success before are now enhanced, and it's through new lenses. Right? It's the lens of safety. It's the lens of transparency. It's the lens of, when we really think about if we're being ethical in our use of data, it makes us ask other questions. And particularly when we think about the audiences we want to meet up with, there's more and more focus on, when we think about diversity, that's a whole nother lens on the data that we might be using. And we should be looking at that through every lens, but particularly it becomes apparent when we talk about focusing on diverse audiences, because it's super important and it's where growth is going to come from, but we need to be extremely responsible in what we're doing when we do that.
I love that. We often talk at Mindshare about good growth and what that means. And yes, good growth can come in the short term with performance, but the longer term view of what's the impact on society and how we can collectively work together across the industry to do the right thing. It's important to both our organizations.
Yes, it is.
Well, Marla, I've so enjoyed this conversation. I think one takeaway is that it's not only about transparency, but it's the art of the question to really unpack what's happening and understand kind of at the heart of it what we should be looking for, what we should be sharing with more of our partners, and bringing everyone together on the same goals and on the same page. So the art of the question, maybe at the heart of transparency.
That sounds so great. I'm glad that we're doing it together.
Same. Let's keep pushing. Awesome.
For sure.
Take care and hope to see you soon in maybe a live can one day.
Yes, hopefully that's on the horizon.